I'm pleased to welcome Alison to be with us and explain a little bit about her piece and its title, the relationship of its title to what's happening in the piece and its inspiration. Um, so, what is the inspiration for this piece, Alison?
The initial inspiration is really the simple Canadian winter sceneries, to be honest, and I was especially drawn to the tenderness versus the violence. So this duality of serenity and chaos in the very brilliant, beautiful Canadian winter that we're all very familiar with.
So, when you're composing, do you actually imagine scenes? Is there kind of a pictorial procession? Or,
No, I wouldn't say it's exactly pictorial. It's more of painting like a tone poem. So I'm really picturing an idea, this expression and impression of a duality. And in my mind, I really started out with the serenity, I think. So starting out with a simple, lyrical, and delicate, almost fragile melody, and gradually making it something more violent and gestural and bigger.
hmm I know that when we were working on the project together, when you conducted the work, I think you told me that the idea is a kind of a horizontal one in terms of its form or the way it's structured or layered. And what do you mean by horizontal? Explain.
Yeah, so I think the logic, well, of course, the piece is, it's starting out with a melody, and certainly there are underlying harmonies. And throughout the piece, I was definitely thinking about forms and this overall overarching shape. But in terms of, horizontal and linear logic, I think what I meant was really just thinking in terms of a line. So I would say for the piece itself, I was almost like composing a melody for the piece and trying to orchestrate and expand this melody. So that's what I meant by horizontal. So it's really just elaborating on this landscape that's just that keeps running forward from this line linear material.
So you conceptualize this as one one melodic line through the whole piece, on, on which are imposed other kinds of activities, or the line is supported by different things. So what are the things that you verbally describe what we hear?
Right. So, for example, when the piece started out, it's really just a simple harp melody, and there are sound effects, um, like temporal effects around the melody. So, like a halo around this line. Then as you listen, this line starts expanding, and as instruments start doubling, it's almost like we hear a pedal piano almost. So like on a piano, if playing without a pedal down, you hear a straight line running through, but with a pedal, there are these additional sonorities going on, even though you're playing a single line. So that's the idea behind actually a lot of the writing and the orchestration principle for this piece, is that I'm almost treating the entire ensemble as like an expanded piano with this pedaling going on with added colors on these pitches and doublings to create like layers and effects. And then as the melody unfolds itself, the harmonies start chiming in, and that part is that part of composing really just came more naturally as I heard in my inner ear, like what worked best with the surface lines. And there are also certain pure gestural and textural moments. So that's when I think the violence of the winter starts kicking in. And at those points in the piece, one doesn't necessarily even hear the melody singing or on the surface, but it's more of the ensemble, really just like the ensemble as a full force projecting these gestures, these bursts of energies out of a simple line. But then I think all of that really started out from this idea of starting with a line and orchestrating and pedaling this line with an ensemble.
When you use the word gesture in musical terms, what does that mean? What's it? What are some of the gestures? Like, can you describe one or two, or what we call a gesture, so that a listener can understand what that means?
Sure. For example, I think towards the end of this selected excerpt, you could hear like the entire ensemble going up, it's almost like glistening up, going up, projecting these like little bursts of energy with the percussion accenting on each of the little bursts, and then gradually coming down with glissando and the strings especially kind of bringing things back down. So that's what I meant by gestures and gestural activities, is that it's more abstract and more about sound effects, and
As opposed to a melodic line.
right. So so like coming out of these melodic lines and back into the melodic lines.
Yeah, and these things kind of create moments of repose sometimes, and meditation, and other times agitation.
Right. So it's chaotic. It's meant to be uh, in contrast to the fragile serenity that opened up the piece.
And so how does the title relate to all of this? Like, temporal means something about time, but
Right.
what you've been talking about is the colors of the instruments and the activities that they do, and melody, and states of being, like moods. Well, where does
Yeah.
the temporal fit into that?
I think what you just said about the state of being, the states of being, is what I was thinking when I was creating the piece in relation to the title. Um, I think overall the piece is there are moments of serenity, but I think overall the piece is about evolving, and there's always this changing aspect. So it's always almost like it's always going somewhere. The line is always going somewhere. The line can go anywhere in
Through
this piece.
time, through
Through
time.
through time. So, and it's a process. So what I wanted to project in the piece is that all these states of being are kind of morphed, and through time they're interrelated, but also you can hear these sections. So it's a very abstract concept, and that's what I meant by temporal, I think.
And our listeners should understand that the performance that they're hearing was conducted by you. And
I was very fortunate to work with this wonderful group of people, and it was great.
but I wanted to ask you, when you were up there in front of the ensemble, were you experiencing the flow of time in the way the piece is written, or were you experiencing the flow of time in some other way?
I think honestly, I think I was just kind of in a zone. It felt almost meditative somehow, because there are all these changes, changing meters, changing materials, patterns, everything's morphing and changing, but somehow it felt like it's really one organism. And when I was up there, I was there with the performers, and we're all just kind of trying to morphing through this temporal experience all together in a meditative zone state.
And everybody was counting too.
Yes. I was just thinking, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, this is like, why am I doing this to myself?
There are two aspects of time going on: the counting aspect,
Yeah.
and then the free flowing, floating aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, where does this go in your continued writing? I mean, what aspects of this piece are drawn upon in what you're doing now, or will do in the future? How does that work?
I think I'm still very drawn to this idea of some like this morphin and transformational idea that something's always evolving, potentially out of a simple concept like just a series of simple chords or like one line. So this is something I'm very attracted to, and I'm actually exploring in my current writing.
You think it might the next one might be in the summertime?
uh I mean, I'm
the winter time or fall or spring. Have you got the four seasons lined up in your mind?
I don't know. Maybe maybe I'll do like a 4 season next time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for speaking with us.
Thank you.
And we look
It's good to
forward
talk.
to hearing more of your music in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.